I mean, what are you going to do? Cry and weep about it?
Maybe. Maybe it took me 5 long days to feel like I'm comfortable talking about a lot of this stuff. Hey, the Texans are currently 3-point underdogs to the Tennessee Titans, and I understand why. But if you go to BetUS, you can use your pessimism and or optimism to fuel a 150% bonus on your first deposit. All the way up to $2,000, 125% bonuses on your second and third deposits at BetUS. Just use the offer code YouTube150. CJ had a rough game, as he said, is probably the worst of his career. What are the reasons for this? He hinted at one possible explanation in the post game. Here it is.
I've tried to approach the game the same way I did, and even, I think I'm seeing it better than I ever have, just a little banged up, so not really making plays, and that's a terrible excuse, but, I mean, really just not making plays. That's really the difference between last year and this year for me is just not making enough plays.
So look, of course, injuries aren't a horrible excuse for not making plays. You just never want to be the kind of player that makes excuses, and it's a battle, especially as a quarterback, because there's times where you have to concede, okay, maybe I'm too banged up to play effectively. And also, as soon as you publicly blame injuries, it becomes an excuse to yourself too. If you don't let anybody know how injured you are, you're not using that as an excuse internally, and you're holding yourself accountable. So like many things in life, it's hard to find the appropriate balance. I've seen evidence of injuries possibly affecting CJ's play. I've also seen evidence of poor play around him, and I've also seen evidence of maybe some of the poor play around CJ starting to affect his decision making. So I want to take a look at some of the worst plays of the game, not to bash on CJ or anything, but I think there's some legitimate excuses or explanations for when the players around him let him down that led to bad play by CJ. But then there's also some bad plays by CJ, in particular one of the sacks that we'll play here in a little bit. But first, let's play this sack. Kyle Van Noy coming clean on a game, and CJ takes the sack. When you watch it on the All-22, what you're going to see is they have a mesh running here where you're going to have Nico over the middle, but he gets hung up. Xavier Hutchinson and Cade Stover coming across the other way. And just as Hutchinson starts sitting down, it looks like CJ's got a good shot at Hutchinson. Okay, pull the trigger right there, right? What I wonder about is if you watch Cade Stover, Cade hasn't cleared Xavier yet. And if CJ had let the ball go already, Van Noy's already on him. So there's multiple things going on here, including the timing of the routes, and not to mention the atrocity that is the offensive line. Simple TE game here. Defensive tackle going upfield, Kyle Van Noy back around, and Kendrick Green and Jarrett Patterson completely oblivious to it all. So between the timing of the receivers, Nico got hung up, not his fault. That was good play by the defender, and just really poor offensive line play. That play was a mess. I don't hold CJ completely accountable for that. But then we go to a play like this one, and look, he's got time, sets up, throws, and just airmails it to Nico. So look, CJ, the ball placement specialist, I don't think that he all of a sudden this year lost the ability to throw the football. This is where I could see perhaps whether it's a hand injury or whatever else it might be, he might just be off. And another part during his press conference, he talked about how he's just wasn't flat out making throws.
No, I just kept missing, just wasn't making throws. And at the same time, I got to find a way to stand in there stronger and make those throws. Just some miscommunication with me and some of the receivers, but ultimately, it's up to me to, make the throw when guys are open.
So when he said miscommunication, the one that jumped out in my mind was his attempted pass to Dalton Schultz over the middle. You see Schultz right there, and Schultz looks like he's starting to sit down right in that hole in the coverage, and CJ thought he was going to keep extending the route. So nice little window there. Dalton slows down, then has to dive for the ball. Is that on Dalton? Is that on CJ? Is it ultimately on Bobby Slowick? A little bit of every one of those things, but it's all these multiple things that are off on any given play. The sum total of it is you get just these miserable offensive performances, whether it's the tight ends, the offensive line in blocking, receivers running the routes with the proper timing and spacing. It's been multiple issues every week really since week 7. One of the plays that I think on the TV copy looked like an egregious misfire, but really was just poor pass protection was this one. Kendrick Green, right guard, gets beat pretty soundly. CJ tries to step up, is throwing while falling backwards. Pass protection, pass protection, pass protection. It's annoying, and I hate to keep bringing it up, and I don't think CJ wants to use it as an excuse, but it is completely effed up his timing and his trust. One play that I think is on CJ here, and when it comes to that timing and everything else that builds into it, CJ takes a sack here, and you might wonder, well, look, there's poor pass protection, right? Of course he's going to get sacked. The problem is this is an RPO, which means that he's got the option to give it to the running back. He doesn't. He pulls it in. But I want you to watch the offensive line. They start off run blocking, and then they transition into blocking downfield. And right here, where you've got both Hutchinson and Schultz coming free, the ball's got to come out now. And why does it have to come out now? Well, look at the offensive linemen. You've got linemen illegally downfield if it's a pass. So even though these receivers turn upward, it's all for naught. You got to throw the ball away at that point. It's a botched play. You certainly can't run backwards and end up taking a sack that's even 7 yards deeper than if you had just taken the sack there. The play is dead in the water. This was concerning to me. This is where I worry about everything. The sum total of this operation is effed, because that's a bad sack to take. It was bad to not get rid of the ball, and then it was really, really bad to bail out backwards after the play was already dead. So, look, I think CJ should rest this week, not because specifically because he's injured, but he probably is. Like most quarterbacks by this time in the year, they're all banged up, and it might be affecting CJ's play. But I've been holding out hope that somehow everything was going to click for this offense, and you've had 16 games to do that. They haven't gotten it right. The best thing at this point is for CJ to get as healthy as possible, as fresh as possible, and if only so that he's not in so much physical pain that he can withstand some of the really bad blocking, some of the poor route running, some of the overall lack of speed out there on the field right now. Because the only thing that's going to salvage this offense, I think, is if CJ just gets on a heater and just starts making incredible plays. And right now, he doesn't look physiologically capable of doing it. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's, everybody. I'm holding out hope that somehow there will be some magical flipping of the switch. Maybe Deontay Johnson provides enough of that speed and enough of that deep threat out there that it opens things up. But that's where we are. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Please like, subscribe, and all the rest of it.